And blessed to be part of your day. Coming up, Sydney Torres joins us from CNBC's The Deed. Before that, Jim in Middleton joins us at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you this morning?
Not bad. Fired up to hear what Mr. Torres has to say. He's a self-made guy that I think he'll give us some tips on real estate and such. But besides that, the Boise border issue continues, and something to talk about on this June day.
Yes, and we need to change the narrative. We need to get things straight, okay? And the correct narrative is the left created another issue, boondoggle, by separating these families along with George Soros to bring them to the border to create this issue. That's what is exactly happening. And we shouldn't be responding to what the left is saying. We should call it for what it is. And that's exactly what they're doing. The left are masters at mathematicians, okay, at math, and I'll explain. They know division better than anyone else I've ever seen, okay? And they're going in with a scalpel here and creating these issues, trying to create the narrative, and then we see a lot of the Republicans, the phony Republicans, jumping on and acting how much they care about this issue and so forth, Kevin. It's just disgusting. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. That's what's going on here, and that's the narrative we need to push.
Well, and that's what they want to do is they haven't been able to stop Trump. And once again, it's like they believe, Jim, that if they can get him to retreat here, they ruin his presidency.
They're not going to get in. More people are waking up and seeing this, and we're seeing how many phony Republicans are out there. You know, Trump has really shown the light on. We already know what the left is all about. They've sold us out. They're a bunch of commies and so forth, and I don't say that lightly. But what we're seeing is the real true colors of the Republican Party and how they constantly fail. They fail. They just talk. They never walk the talk. They just flap their lips. And I will support this president when he's on the mark. If he goes off reservation a little bit, I'll kick him in the teeth for that. I don't support anyone, Kevin, unconditionally. Never have and never will. That's like saying that if you lie, cheat, and steal from me, I'll still support you. I won't. But that's what's happening, and people need to understand that the left is creating all of this. They're trying to control the narrative, and they are they started this controversy, moved these families up. This was all planned and what have you, as it has been. But anyway, that's the way it is there, Kevin, and we just need to stay vigilant and keep pushing back.
And that's our job. It's not an easy one, but that's what the left is counting on, all of us to be quiet, Jim, and all of us just to stand down and move away, to say that we don't have any compassion, but we do.
True, Kevin. And it's easy to be a liberal. You don't need any thought. There's no effort. You don't have to put anything out. There's no sacrifice to be a liberal. And folks like working class Americans, true, traditional, hardworking Americans, they know this, Kevin. And just a word of wisdom, all roads worth traveling lead uphill, meaning that we have to take the tough road, and you do it every day. And I don't want to give you too many praises, but Kevin, you always walk the talk, and I've said this before. That's why you have my respect. People give you adoration and love you and so forth and so on. I watch how you walk, Kevin, and you walk the talk, and you just have a lot of my respect. President Trump, the same thing. Look what he's doing. He's turning politics on its head, showing how phony and fake all of the politicians have been the last 35, 40 years, how irrelevant,
right,
how corrupt and inept. and how they've lied to us about not getting things done.
And, Jim, we appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
You bet, Kevin. Kevin, have a great day.
You too, brother. Our great friend Jim from Middleton. Joining us now from CNBC's The Deed, Sydney Torres from New Orleans, or as they pronounce it, Nolans. Sydney, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Thank you for having me on.
You know, as someone who had the pleasure, at least for a year, of attending O. Perry Walker High School in New Orleans, now they've merged it. I'm so fascinated with that city. It has such culture, such heritage, such architecture, and such an opportunity for you. We love your show. And for people that haven't seen The Deed in its second season on CNBC, tell us a little bit about it, Sydney.
Well, it's a show. It really, obviously New Orleans is the backdrop, and thank you for all your kind words about New Orleans. It's a backdrop, which is great to have for the show. But the what we teach on the show can be used anywhere in the U.S. as far as when it comes to real estate. We teach financial literacy. We teach value engineering. We teach when you're buying your first home what to do and how to do it. And each episode demonstrates that through the actual hour. And it's really cool because we use the investee, the person who I'm investing with, as the person to show what to do, what not to do. And we're changing lives. It's really cool because these are people who can't get the financing through local institutional banks because of the fact that they don't have the tax returns, they don't have the income statements, they don't have the assets. And so what I do is on The Deed, we teach them what's the process, what are the steps that you need to take so that way you don't mess up. Because a house purchase is one of the largest purchases a family's going to make. So you want to make sure that you have that built-in equity from the beginning. You don't want to try to say, oh, well, I can pay a little bit more because I can renovate for less. That's the wrong way to look at it, and those are some of the things we teach throughout the episodes.
Sydney, but being a fan of you and your show, you have a little different vibe. You not only are self-made, but you have a heart. You don't go for the best deal. You make perhaps not as much profit as you can, and these are people that have maybe watched one too many flipping shows and have done it wrong. You've made a career so successful that you have your own series now, The Deed on CNBC, where you've done it right. Why is it important, A, to have a heart? And, Boise and the Treasure Valley, one of the hottest flipping markets right now. Could you give us some success tips on how to avoid some of those pitfalls that you cover in The Deed?
Well, I think everything, if I try to do everything from the heart. At times when it comes to, deals and first-time home flippers, you have to make sure that you have a structure so that that way they can follow it, but doing it in a loving way. And what I try to do is put myself in their shoes when I started out and knowing like, okay, who are the mentors that helped me out and make sure that I can deliver that same type of service back to how I was treated when I was coming up. And I try to pass that along and pay it forward. And it's just an amazing feeling to see someone who's struggling, working 2 jobs, trying to pay for their kids' school. And the one opportunity that we give them, we have one of the episodes where they're going to make gross over $900,000 this year, and they're going to make around $350,000 to $400,000 in net profit. And it's just a beautiful feeling to say, I was part of that, and that was fun, and I enjoyed doing it. And I look at things for the long term. I look at, I play the long game and trying to help these people out. I'm not looking to get a, quick profit. I don't charge high interest rates. I'm fair with my interest rates. I share in the profits. So if we do well, if they do well, we all do well. And I think that's the way all business should be done, and I think we'd have a better world if it was.
No, you're right, Sydney. You're right. Again, I'm a little fanboy geeked out here having you on here on KIDO Talk Radio. I've noticed that about you. And you take a look at your story. The Deed will be on tonight on CNBC, the second season. But you've gone from sweeping the floors, watching the promo. You've gone from, living the high life to sweeping the floors to now, being the captain of your own destiny. How did that happen?
Well, I struggled with dyslexia coming up in school. And when I was coming up in school, I'm 43, they really didn't know how to diagnose dyslexia. They're just like, oh, well, he's not smart. And I had struggles in school, and then my parents divorced when I was 11. I got involved with a wrong crowd. I got involved with drugs. I started actually doing heroin at a very young age, and my life was going downhill. If you were to look at it on a piece of paper, you'd say, he's not going to make it. And I had an opportunity and a mentor who kind of grabbed my arm and was like, you got to get your stuff together. You got to get yourself straight. I took a job working for Lenny Kravitz right out of high school as a personal assistant traveling the world, and he fired me back in 1998 and 97, 98, and I remember getting a job sweeping the floor at the construction company, and I worked my way up to a supervisor. I got my general contractor's license, and in 1998, 99, I bought my first flip for $40,000, and my grandmother co-signed for that deal, and she's still alive today. She's 98. She actually went to the premiere last week, and it was just a beautiful thing to have her there. But I say this, those struggles, I wouldn't change them for anything in the world, because I think at times, I think it's important for you to struggle for you to have success. I think anybody that has success or things that were given to them, they didn't have to work for it, they don't appreciate it. And I think I appreciate it so much because I know what it's like to be on the bottom, and so I appreciate having the opportunity to have a normal life and to be successful and be blessed with that.
Sidney Torres joining us from The Deed on CNBC tonight and every Wednesday night, the second season at KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. Sidney, let's go back to flipping. We watch these shows all the time. In the down economy, they're not on now. Every show is flipping. Your show is unique because you deal with the business aspect. Season 1, you had people that were overextended. You had people that were still you had a guy living in his home, and he was trying to rent it out, and his dad, and they were going back and forth on this. What are the pitfalls? And like I said, we're one of the hottest real estate markets in the country right now. You have a lot of people buying homes. I don't know if we're in a housing bubble, but what are the pitfalls that you've seen that you've avoided that you could help people with here?
So I always say, look at the facts, get the comps, understand your area that you're going to invest in. When you establish your budget, you want to make sure you find good mentors who understand the area that you want to invest in. You want to make sure that you don't over-leverage yourself. You want to make sure that you understand before you actually close on the house, whether it's your first home purchase or it's a flip. You want to make sure that you can renovate it for the number that you think you can renovate it for before you actually close. And I think it's so important. So many people jump in with excitement. They do the deal, and then they realize, it's going to cost me more than what I thought, and it's going to be very close on the profit. You want to make sure that you know that going into the deal. You've got to remove the emotional side of it. You've got to remove the personal side of it, and you really got to look at the numbers and the comps to make sure that when you make your business plan, that you're doing it from the standpoint of what is working, and you don't want to be a trendsetter. You want to make sure that you follow what's working and don't get emotionally attached to the property, and try to keep it where you have someone that's always with you, a mentor, somebody who can keep you in check, keep you in line. And I think that's so important because I always say you make your money on the buy, you collect your money on the sale. So you want to make sure that you negotiate a price where you're making your money on the negotiations on the front end so you have a cushion on the back end.
Sidney, finally, your favorite episode of Season 2. Can you give us a sneak peek of what really moved you this season?
I think tonight's episode is going to be one of my favorites because it's two partners who lost their fathers at a younger age, at 13, 14 years old. They were brought together because of that common bond, and I think that they had good intentions throughout the years. They got in a fight, and they split up, and they had a hard time making a decision on this piece of property that they bought years ago, and they were paying interest. They were paying all these bills on it, but it was just sitting there. And so they were fighting whether they should go big, they should go small. One had the money, the other one didn't. And it's just a beautiful thing because at the end, they come together and they both make a lot of money, more than they expected. But the cool thing about it is I brought back together a friendship, and of course the partnership happened too, but I brought together a lifelong friendship that probably wouldn't have happened if we couldn't have figured out what to do with this piece of property. So I think tonight's one of my favorites. I think, if anybody's out there listening, if they can tune in and hashtag The Deed, we trended number 5 in the U.S. on Twitter last week, and we'd love for you to join the conversation and hashtag The Deed with us and get involved in the conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy this episode tonight.
Sidney, thanks for all you do. We appreciate you joining us, and good luck, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Sidney Torres. Dave in Meridian, thank you for your patience. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. Yeah, I want to echo the comments of your caller before the last one to talk on immigration. Yeah, I think somebody's orchestrating this whole flood on the border, and what surprises me is how fast Republicans move when they're making decisions based on fear. You know, they don't want to be called a xenophobe or racist. I'm just surprised how fast they act out of fear. And secondly, what really angers me and a lot of voters, I believe, is our representatives not standing up for the American citizen and supporting the president. The cost of all this is so staggering for the American taxpayer, and I find few politicians even discussing that or trying to address that.
Well, they have no guts, and the left does a good job of bullying, where if you speak out, they start calling you a xenophobe, a racist, a homophobe, intolerant, a bigot, and that's not good for business. So it's emotional blackmail augmented by the liberal progressive media. It's unfortunate. That's the world that we live in, Dave, when we're talking about this. And most politicians don't want to stand up to the libs. They just want to go along and get along.
Well, yeah, there's either silence or they jump on the bandwagon. And, I want to echo the old saying that all that needs to be done for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And even our own senators here, I would sure like to see them just stop standing in the corner and come out and support this president, whether they like him or not, because they should know that this is all a political imagery game. And I sure would like to see more support for this president.
Well, with the exception of Congressman Labrador, our congressional delegation dropped the ball. You had Senator Crapo making statements, then he retracted them. You had Senator Risch making statements, and then you had Congressman Simpson making statements. None coming near endorsing the president and the candidate at the time. They wanted nothing to do with him.
Yeah, and I think politicians underestimate the outrage. This president will get reelected again, and they're going to find themselves on the wrong side of this issue. And if they think that the public mood is changing or supporting all this, whatever you want to call it, the showdown on the border, they're wrong. Most people still support Trump and support strong borders. And if they do not think so, the politicians, then they are on the wrong side of the issue.
Well, but they're counting on the pressure. They're counting on the press to have Trump retreat. And I don't think that he's going to. I hope that he doesn't, because this is it. This is our shot.
You got it.
Dave,
thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right. Bye-bye. Like I said, this is our shot. The libs want to take away the president. They want to open up the border. They don't want a country of rules and regulations. They want it to be replaced by compassionate lawlessness. I'll explain next at 580-KIDO, 580-5436. You're listening to 107.5 FM, 580 AM, KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up, Trey Gowdy smacks the Inspector General report. More of your phone calls. Don't forget, Boise Music Festival Saturday. We'll be at the kids booth. Make sure you register your kids so you keep an eye on your kid. We'll have wristbands, and Jimmy will be there, and I'll be there in my pasty pale glory. Looking forward to seeing everybody. Make sure you wear the sunscreen, or if you're like me, you'll be wearing a long-sleeve shirt at the very least, and pants as well. Liberty Linda, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller. Hello, Liberty Linda.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. Yeah, yesterday I thought President Trump was absolutely magnificent. You know, I was crying, Kevin, as he spoke. I think finally we have a president that speaks the truth to us. When they showed these children on television later, they looked clean. They showed the 3 healthy meals they were eating every day. It showed them watching television and playing volleyball. It looked to me, we as a country is actually going the extra mile to take care of these children. And however, Kevin, we cannot take in every child in the world. We just cannot do it. We have to use common sense when it comes to our country.
I would agree with you. It's too bad that the libs don't have common sense and they don't have fiscal responsibility.
I couldn't believe the things they were saying on television about our own country. You know, we are paying lots of money to take care of these children. They're coming to our country We don't have to do that, but we are. You know, I know that you and I and the Miller Militia and those who listen to you, we care for every child on this earth. We don't want one child to be mistreated. We want them to have food. But the United States, we just can't do it for every child. So anyway, thankful for the program that we have, and I think we're doing a wonderful job. And basically, that's what I want to say today.
All right, Liberty Linda, stay out of trouble.
Well, we try to, right? Have a great day, Kevin. We love you.
We love you, Liberty Linda. Max in Garden City, hang on. Traffic and weather together. Max in Garden City, you're next after John Decker. First, let's find out what's happening locally from our friends at Channel 7 at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Doug. And from the White House to your house, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, your proud home for Fox News Radio in the Treasure Valley, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Max and Tea Party Bob will get to you in a minute. First, John Decker joins us now with the very latest on an incredible speech that I don't think I've ever heard from any president yesterday on the road. John, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing today, Kevin?
Just trying to digest what the president said. Unlike other politicians, he's not retreating. He's not surrendering. He had a pretty big speech to the business community yesterday.
He did. He did indeed. And as you say, as of now, he doesn't seem to be. I'm sorry, I had something coming in as we're speaking. As of now, it doesn't seem like he's retreating, Kevin. But at the same time, Fox News is reporting that the president is looking at signing some sort of executive action, which would provide a temporary fix for those children who've been separated from their parents at the border. So we'll see if indeed that occurs. That is news that is broken within the past hour or so. So keep that in mind as we continue to report this story.
Really comes down to the art of the deal. The president having a one level of negotiation, putting pressure on Congress. He and the administration not backing down, saying, look, it's not me. Make Congress do it. We did see some movement from the Senate Majority Leader yesterday.
Well, look, the Senate is doing its thing. The House is doing its thing. Unfortunately, they're not, sort of working on the same piece of legislation, which makes it difficult to provide a quick fix to this. So, despite the fact the president is calling on Congress to provide some sort of solution, Congress takes their time, and Congress is not sort of built in such a way that it can provide quick fixes to virtually anything. So this is why the president most likely will need to step in and do something which provides that quick fix. So what it is that the president would do is there would be an executive action that would be signed by the president that would allow these children of people who cross the border illegally to stay with their parents through the entire adjudication process. This would allow the children to stay in detention with their parents for a potentially extended period of time.
John, we've asked you this question before, but how unique is this administration's outreach, this press office? Again, it's something that we haven't ever seen. You're a veteran of many administrations. How unique is this that they seem to go into the storm as opposed to away from it?
Well, it is unique. It's unique in every sense. And, I think that over the course of the past first year of the presidency, many complaints coming from some of my colleagues about this administration as it relates to access. But maybe those complaints were coming from people who've not covered prior to administrations. I can tell you the access is pretty remarkable. The president just last week, as you know, just came out from the West Wing and essentially had a 20-minute press conference with reporters who were just literally just a few feet away from him. So that's unique. I've never seen anything like that before, and I doubt very much that once President Trump is no longer president, whether that's in a few years or whether he's a two-term president, I doubt very much we'll see another president like President Trump again.
He seems to be much more comfortable doing those unscripted events.
He does, but that's sort of what he's done his entire life. He's sort of built for that. He likes the give and take. He likes parrying with reporters. And, that's the reason why he does these impromptu events sometimes like we saw last week and like we've seen in other venues on other occasions when the president leaves the White House for trips out of Washington, D.C. Sometimes, more often than not, he'll come to the microphones and take some questions, and he'll make some news, which is another good thing for us who are covering this White House.
Well, and unlike other administrations, they don't seek to co-opt the press. They don't have a problem, at least the president, treating the press as adversaries, and we saw that yesterday. We heard that yesterday.
Well, that's right. That's exactly right. I think that, to a certain extent, reporters it's a two-way street is the important thing to keep in mind, so that reporters should have respect for the press secretary and the press secretary should have respect for reporters, and then we don't get into shouting matches during the course of a briefing. That's decorum's pretty important, I think. And although the president does things a certain way, doesn't mean that it has to carry over into other aspects of covering this White House.
John Decker, thank you for your time. We always appreciate your work from the White House, sir.
Hey, thanks a lot, Kevin. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too, sir. Bye-bye. Our great friend John Decker joining us. Let's get to Max in Garden City on KIDO Talk Radio. That's 107.5 FM and 580 AM. Good morning, Max.
Good morning, Kevin. I see only two solutions to the border problem, and neither one of them really involves building a wall. The first solution is simply chip and release. When you get them, chip them with the knowledge and understanding that if a chipped person re-enters the border, we've got a nice source of prison labor. Now, that's expensive, but it might work. The other one is to recognize Mexico as what it is. It is a failed state. It is governmentally hostile toward our government. They are invading us daily. And yes, we're talking an act of war. We're talking about crossing that border, but don't do like we did in Libya or other countries where we go in and leave them to their own devices. Annex Mexico. Annex it. Make it a territory of the United States. You'd be surprised at how many of the citizens of Mexico would welcome us with open arms for a chance at peace, safety, and economic future. Invade. Knock them babies out. Go border to border. Annex it. And bring the rule of law. Over a course of 40, 50 years with their resources and the marvelous people of Mexico, they could be one of the leading three economies in the world. Am I radical?
Well, that would solve the problem of what to do with California.
You got that right. Just, hey, save the wall for California and go get Mexico. That's just some ideas. I wanted to wake people up.
And let me just repeat that. You want to chip the people that come in, so if they come back.
One possibility is chip them. If you catch them, chip them and send them back.
Now, to all the bleeding hearts that are going to go, that's inhumane.
Yet
You're
these
treating
same
them
bleeding
like
hearts would chip their dog. They love their dog. They treat their dog better than they treat their own kids, but they chip the dog. So we chip these people, and if you come back chipped, we're going to put you in prison. We're going to put you in a work farm or a labor
what happens
camp.
if they bring their kids?
Well, you chip the kids, and if the kids are identified, send
Now,
them back to
Max,
Mexico and let Mexican Child Services.
That's not being very compassionate now, is it?
Sure,
You know,
Mexico has child services.
these kids that somehow got through the Mexican tough immigration system from Guatemala. Max, I'm going to give you an opportunity to address the Boise City Council that says the regular folks are mad and they condemn what the president's doing. They condemn the president for trying to save America. Now, granted, I don't think that the mayor of Boise or his acolytes are listening, but if they are, what would you say to them? And I'm sure some of the lib monitors are listening to this program. Speak to them directly. So. Speak to them directly, sir.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you step out of the bubble in which you live. You need to be the pulse of the people. You need to listen to the citizens who elected you, because one day they won't.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you, buddy.
All right. Pro-Life joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. Hello, Pro-Life.
Yeah, Max had some pretty good ideas there.
You think chipping people is a good idea?
No, I don't think about it. I hate that.
Well, that was a pretty good idea from Max, I thought.
Well, the real problem we've had is...
Well, which idea was pretty good, then, if you don't want to chip people?
Well, if we could lead to reviving Mexico into a first-world economy. And what we've done since Nixon and Kissinger...
Why should we revive Mexico's economy? We're not the Mexican government. We're not the Mexican people. We're Americans.
I know, and we're stupid.
You've got too many drug cartels running that joint now.
Well,
I mean, the Mexican government, they've got a tougher immigration policy than you do. You got a lot of people than we do. You have a lot of people that, they want to retire. You go and try and be a Mexican citizen. It's not go to the border and live large. You got to jump through the hoops.
I know. I've lived there. I know what it's like. And here's the real problem. We have not emphasized Latin America, Haiti, Dominican Republic as trading partners, as emphasis on where we're going to put economic action,
We give them a lot of trade. We give them a lot of things. You ever heard of the Monroe Doctrine?
Yeah, but
yeah.
we never really live up to it.
Well, look at the Contras.
We go to some communist country like China and make them our number one trading partner. Now and then we neglect Latin America. That's the real problem. We've done it for decades, and we shouldn't do that. Now, how do we get the American people to realize that our trading partners should be in this hemisphere? I don't know. They're pretty stupid people, and that's the real problem.
I love you to death, but you need to come up with a new act. Everybody's stupid or impotent.
Well, what if it's true?
You got a point there.
Yeah. Well, it is true. But anyway, that's our real problem, is that, Mexicans can't own guns. Now, we could pressure the Mexican government.
They tell that to the drug cartels.
Yeah. I mean, I would want to get out of Mexico and come to the United States if I couldn't own a gun and I couldn't protect myself against a cartel people. Hey, that's one of the problems right there. We could solve that. We could pressure the Mexican government so that they allowed gun rights.
Why don't we worry about our own people?
Yeah, well, we should. But we want to murder our babies and commit any
You're
kind of
jumping all over the place.
Right. I should.
No, you're jumping all over the place.
Well, we're not doing the right thing. We're being selfish, and so everybody suffers.
No, I love America. I don't know about you.
I do, too.
Well, maybe you should say something nice about America.
Well, we have the best Constitution. We have the best faith basis, but we're not doing the right thing with it.
Pro-Life, thank you.
All right.
Pro-Life a little off today. Pro-Life was a little off today. Coming up next, it is the publisher of the Gem State Patriot, Tea Party Bob, and you. Phone number is 580-5436, 580-KIDO.
This Inspector General's report should conjure anger, disappointment, and sadness in everyone who reads it.
That's Trey Gowdy from the IG report yesterday. We really didn't get to that. Why?
In fact, the president alone can fix it with this flick of a pen by signing a presidential order to end the agonizing screams of small children who've been separated from their parents.
Senator Chuck E. Schumer. Is it me, or does he have a very unique voice? Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Tea Party Bob joins us now at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Tea Party Bob.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you this morning? You sound like you're in rare form.
Wow. Rare form, really?
Yes, you do. You're very excited about this whole thing that's going on down at the border.
Well,
I want to call out.
My goodness, you made a statement. I'm trying to answer, and then we go to the talking points.
Go.
I can't figure out your timing.
My timing's a little bit off this morning.
Well, I hear that about you a lot.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's a compliment coming from me.
I want to call out the Boise City Council and a mayor, as we call a master beater, out for the hypocrites that they are. Boise has a homeless count that exceeds 2,000 people per night. It began ticketing these people for sleeping in public places back in 2006 by a seldom used camping ordinance. Back in 2009, they were sued by a group of 6 homeless people for ticketing them and violating the camping ordinance. What did the mayor and the city council do? They tweaked the camping ordinance in 2014, so they only ticketed people that when there were no beds available in the shelters. Cities like Boise have created these new laws, like the camping law, to make it virtually illegal to be homeless, ticketing people for acts like sleeping in public. Boise has criminalized homelessness by creating these laws.
Let me just say this, and to interrupt the talking points for a second. There's an unwritten rule in the city of Boise. If you want to keep your job, you don't talk about the homeless situation at the skate park. You don't talk about the homeless situation throughout. And we have wonderful non-associated with the government, non-government agencies, Christian folks that do a wonderful job taking care of the homeless. But then there's, as you pointed out, there's another element that the major news media in this city will not touch. There is not a public official that has enough guts to come on this program to talk about it. And that the word is, you want to lose your job in the city of Boise, talk about the homeless problem. And that's from multiple sources.
Well, they target the homeless continuously. I mean, I see it all the time when I get downtown.
Well, they want you to ignore the situation.
Of course they do. You know, they say they're enforcing the law. Well, isn't that just what President Trump's doing? You know, we send people off to prison in Texas thousands of miles away, where they're thrown in with the worst criminals of the Mexican cartel because they don't want to spend the money to build a new jail. Yet the city has money to purchase open land for hiking and money to celebrate the gay rights. And even, you know, they even wanted to build a baseball stadium. They seem to have the money for that. But they do not care about the prisoners, and they do not care about the homeless who are suffering each day.
Look, and as a point of fairness, as you as my witness, we invite any member of the city council, the mayor who has an open invitation, to give their side of the story and to let the regular folks, to quote them, hear their side of how this policy has to end. But I don't think they'll take us up on it, but they're welcome to come on this program.
They're never going to come on your program. You know, this is one of the reasons that I'm thinking about moving to a place like Horseshoe Bend because of this liberal creep that continually takes place. And it's going to do the same thing out here in Meridian. I see it happening already. The whole genre of this area is changing, and it's changing dramatically.
Well, you're saying the libs are moving into Meridian?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I thought we were holding the line at Meridian.
No, believe me, it's not a line anymore. You know, all the politicians complain about the problems, but they never want to do anything to solve them. You know, and I go back to my old saying, we get the government we deserve. We keep voting the same stupid people in.
Elections matter.
Stupid government.
Elections matter.
Exactly. Exactly. And if you don't go out and vote and try to change what's going on, well, then you're going to suffer and you're going to take all of the garbage they throw at you.
You know, you're full of sunshine and happiness this morning.
Yes, indeed I am, but I really hate what's going on here. It's diabolical the way they turn things around.
You know what that is? Side. That's not me cutting off. It's time to go.
It is time, and I hope you have a great day today. Thank you again.
I'll be talking to you, old friend.
All right, my friend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good morning, Dave. And Kevin Miller in the morning here, reminding you, coming up Tuesday, it is the Treasure Valley God and Country Festival. Join us at the amphitheater in Nampa, Fort Idaho Center. It's free. Fireworks. It's going to be a great time. Details at KIDOTalkRadio.com. Big ups to Ray Amaya. Great job as always. Thank you all for listening. Good day. God bless and keep the faith.